One thing that's certain in travel is popular attractions come and go, and many formerly popular spots are sadly left to decay long after their glory days. Interestingly, however, they still have draw and appeal in their own sad and somewhat creepy way. So here are my picks for the 10 creepiest abandoned amusement parks in the world. Number 10. Western Village, Japan. This cowboy-themed amusement park looks like something in the southwestern US, but is actually right in the middle of Japan. Built in 1975, about an hour outside of Tokyo, this amusement park was actually very popular for a few decades and attracted millions of visitors. But eventually the novelty did wear off, and the park was closed in 2007. Today, much of it remains unharmed, from the old-fashioned two-door saloon to the super expensive $27 million Mount Rushmore. Even the animatronic John Wayne is still by the original entrance. So, if you're ever near Tokyo. Number 9. Spree Park, Berlin. This park has quite a history. Built in 1969, this amusement park was the only one in what was known as the German Democratic Republic, or East Germany, before the Berlin Wall was torn down. Surprisingly, the park remained open even after the country was unified, until 2002, when one of the main investors moved to Peru to open an amusement park there instead. But the story gets even crazier. He was arrested in 2003 for smuggling 76 pounds of cocaine in a carousel, which he claimed to be shipping back to Germany for repairs. So it goes without saying that the park has been decaying ever since. Number 8. Gingerbread Castle, New Jersey, USA. Our oldest park on the list, this former children's paradise, was built in the late 1920s by the same architect who built the iconic Ziegfeld Follies Theater in New York City. The park was based on the Grimm's fairy tales and even had a 3-story castle right in the center of the park. The park closed in the late 70s, although it did open for a haunted attraction at Halloween time for several years, but is now permanently closed. The castle still stands but no longer looks magical, as it's now very faded, with broken windows, and many of the fairy tale figurines have since been looted. Very sad. Number 7. Land of Oz, North Carolina, USA. One of the most infamous parks on our list, this 16-acre park was opened in 1970, high up in the mountains of Beech Mountain, North Carolina, and obviously based on the world of Oz. The story would progress in order with sound effects of a tornado, and then visitors would be escorted to a storm shelter where they would be joined by Dorothy. Surprisingly, this theme was not popular for very long, and after the first few months, interest in the park began to dwindle. The final straw was a fire in 1975, which led the owners to permanently close the park. However, for the morbidly curious out there, good news. The current owners do open the gates for the annual Autumn of Oz event, which lasts 2 days. But be warned, it's more of an eerie than happy experience due to the current rundown state of the park. Number 6. Joyland, Kansas, USA. This park was actually a big success for many years, 55 to be exact, between 1949 and 2004, and featured 25 rides. Sadly, this success ended following change of ownership and renovations which were too expensive. Parts of the park were reopened in 2006 following these upgrades, but sadly it was short-lived and the park was permanently closed at the end of the season. In the years since, the park's appearance has grown even more chilling due to harsh weather conditions, vandalism, and even a fire caused by arson in 2012. The beginning stages of demolition began in the summer of 2016, and in August of 2018, the Wacky Shack Dark Ride, which was one of the few remaining intact rides, was destroyed by fire. In November of 2018, an anonymous buyer purchased the land, but it remains to be seen what the future holds with this spot. Number 5. Nara Dreamland, Japan. Following an inspiring trip to Disneyland in the late 1950s, a Japanese businessman named Kunizu Matsuo decided to build a comparable park in 1961. He actually met with Walt Disney himself during the development, and they were going to be partners, but unfortunately, they disagreed on licensing. Matsuo decided to continue with a knockoff version of Disney with new characters of his own and a Matterhorn ride and even Main Street USA, and it worked for a while until 1983 when Tokyo Disneyland opened. Its popularity greatly decreased, of course, but it kept on fighting until 2001 when Universal Studios Japan opened. It permanently closed in 2006, and the park remained standing for a decade, overgrown with weeds and surrounded by barbed wire. The wooden roller coaster remained with cars on the track, and Main Street looked like a ghost town, complete with tumbleweeds. Demolition began in 2016 and finally completed in December of 2017, so now our dreamland only exists in people's memories. Number 4. Heritage USA, South Carolina. Opened in 1987, this Christian theme park was one of a kind and part of a complex that included a water park, church, a school for kindergarten through 12th grade, conference center, and hotel. The property was known as Heritage International Ministries and operated by televangelists Jim and Tammy Baker. The park was an astonishing 2,300 acres and averaged 5 million visitors a year, second only to Disney World and Disneyland. Following multiple scandals involving Jim Baker, the park began having serious financial troubles in the late 80s, and Hurricane Hugo was the final straw in September of 1989, as it caused severe damage, and the park was closed shortly thereafter. Since then, many investors have expressed interest in rebuilding the theme park, but it has yet to happen. Number 3. Disney's River Country, Florida, USA. This was actually the original Disney World water park and was opened in 1976. It had a dozen attractions and was quite popular until the September 11th attacks, which took a big toll on the U.S. tourism industry, and it was forced to close on November 2nd, 2001. It's one of only 2 Disney theme parks to ever permanently close, but that's not the shocking part. The real shock is that it's been left to ruin. Rather than being torn down, the structures have simply been left to be overgrown with vegetation, and it's definitely one of the biggest and most shocking Disney World secrets. Number 2. Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, West Virginia, USA. Not only is this one of the scariest looking abandoned parks on our list, but it also has one of the creepiest histories. This property already had many terrible events before the park was even built, with numerous deaths including one man supposedly burned at the stake. Then, during the park's 40-year history, 2 more children died on site, including a girl who died on the circling swings, and it's said that her ghost still haunts the park. The rumors of the deaths and subsequent haunting led to the park closing in 1966, but it's never been torn down. You can still see the infamous swings, now very rusted, as well as the Ferris wheel overgrown with vines. And the property is open for haunted tours every October if you dare. And finally, Pripyat Amusement Park, Ukraine. There are many reasons why this lands at number 1. First of all, it is the only park that never had a full day of operation, as it never had the chance to open. It was intended to open on May 1st, 1986, but the horrific Chernobyl incident just a handful of days earlier, on April 26th, which of course was one of the worst nuclear disasters in history, caused the entire city to evacuate immediately due to unsafe radiation levels. Crazily enough, on April 27th, the day after the disaster, the park did open for just a few hours to distract the very freaked out residents. While the park was small, only featuring some swing boats, bumper cars, a Ferris wheel, and paratrooper ride, it's been pictured countless times as it's part of the 1,000 square mile zone of alienation, which can only be accessed with special permission or as part of an organized tour. It's a truly haunting sight. So there you have 10 truly creepy abandoned amusement parks, and I'd love to know if you ever visited any of them while they were still in operation. I'd really appreciate you subscribing to my channel, and as always, I can't wait to explore more of the world with you right here on Passport Pages.